Welcome back to Roundtable Sights and Sounds Wireless Top 100, or enough 20-year-olds voted for enough movies that made the list. That's being nice. We're going to talk about 5 movies, and probably some of them the best movies of all time would be laughable. But we will talk about those tonight. First up, the man, the myth, the legend, Kirk Kowalkowski, the man that loves movies so much, and he will agree all these deserve to be on the best movies of all time, right?
I'll tell you what. Compared to some of the weeks we've had so far, this week is an oasis in the desert. So this is the happiest you might see me for a while on this night's episode.
Next week seems good. I'll tease that at the end. Next up, Bar.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't have anything for you. The oldest man in the group. We have a movie from your you wish you were born in the 50s. So, how you doing?
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I'm doing okay. These last couple days have been a lot, and I finally have a day off tomorrow, so I'm just gonna enjoy the night that I have.
Awesome. And
waste. I mean,
your choice. And next up, I swear I'm going to get him on a normal roundtable. I don't think he's ever done a normal roundtable. He did the horror one. He did the top 100. So, again, I think he would take the horror 9 times out of 10. But I will get him on a normal one at one point. But, John, you sent me as soon as I sent you the list, you're like, great, I hate a certain movie. So, we're excited to talk about that. How are you tonight?
I'm excited to talk about that movie. I'm excited to actually talk about all these movies. All these movies are enjoyable in their own way. But yeah, I guess I have never been on a regular roundtable. I just treated the horror one like it was regular, but I guess I've never been on a regular one. So yeah, whenever. Yeah, we're still cool.
I might bring the chaos next time. I might bring Nazario, you, Kaiser back. We might have a full-on wild episode. That sounds like delightful. All right. Well, how the show works, we went through. We're up to, on this episode, this is 71 through 75. We have a quarter away, basically, through. So we've done our due diligence. So we're getting there, Kirk. We're getting there. We're going to start tonight, 1959. Zach Ford was supposed to be here. And I wanted to make this joke when Zach Ford's here. The only classic director that anybody knows is Billy Wilder, and we've got Some Like It Hot. I'm assuming everybody saw this movie prior to this.
Mm-hmm.
So, overall, I think Billy Wilder is the most accessible director for classics, especially that I've met in this community. So, I don't know if that's maybe Capra, I don't know, but he seems to be the easy way into black and white or grainy cameras that people are I can tolerate this. So it's not surprising.
I think it's because his movies don't feel like classics. I think his movies feel so modern that you can ease in there, and most of his movies feel like they could have been made 5-10 years ago and not be that much different.
And if Mr. Smith Goes to Washington last episode has anything to prove, it's that Capra is not the accessible one of the two.
I think this movie is probably the least of the movies we could remake today, but hey, teach the rest.
Probably fair. Probably not in the most politically correct sense of this movie, but I know that at least one person does not like this movie. I think 3 of us like it. So I'm going to go to John first to talk about his not enjoyment of this movie.
It's more than just a not enjoyment. It's I've had to watch this movie more than movies I like because of this movie. I've had to watch this movie several times just for trivia. And the first time I watched it, I was like, all right, cool. I can definitely see my grandmother just laughing her socks off watching this movie. And I was like, cool, I get it in context. And then like every time I watch it with a more critical eye. And like to the point now where I'm like, this piece of shit. I'm like right on the edge of this piece of shit with this movie. Like every time I watch it, it just goes down and down further for me. Like it's like I know it's not supposed to be plausible, but it doesn't ever act like it's implausible. Like the movie presents itself like this is legitimate. So like I don't know. Like I said in one of my reviews when I was starting to hate this movie, I was like, if this was made in the 80s, it would be like John Candy and somebody else, and it would be National Lampoon's Some Like It Hot, like 1,000%.
Okay.
I hope
Thanks. The more I realize it, I've had somebody else has come to me with this. I don't know if classic comedy is not comedy is the hardest for everybody to agree upon, because it's the most subjective of everything. Like what Bar finds funny, I will probably I could not find funny in the same reverse. And I think certain people I've learned, not a huge Jack Lemmon find him funny for some. Like some people just don't buy into that. And I'm not saying that's your case, John. I'm just saying in general, there's a movie called the movie Odd Couple. I think is arguably one of the funniest movies that I've ever watched. It's hilarious to me.
I agree on that. Yeah.
But then I show it to some people, and I'm like, Cody, what the fuck? This is not funny at all. I'm like, really? I find it hysterical. So I'm curious. There's a lot of goofiness that happens in this movie. I will grant it. And it's not my top Wilder. I like the movie a lot. It's just not my overall. I think there are better Wilders, but some people really like it. Best movie of all time. It's just hard. Again, it matters how you build your list. I would say, because I don't know if I give how many Wilders can you allow, or how that's an interesting subject when you're building a list. Would I have put it on there? No, because I would put 3 or 4 Wilders over it. But I still think it's a quality movie, and
before anybody else jumps in, what I'll say is I love The Apartment, and that's the next year he made The Apartment. So
right,
I have a lot of dissonance in my head when I watch this movie. But go ahead.
And I think it probably doesn't help with trivia. Honestly, if anything, that's got to be I would argue the worst thing for maybe YLS is worse to watch movies for to go in with positive mindset yeah, no, this person put this here and forced me to watch it. This is a piece of shit. Bar, you looked like you had some reactions to what John was saying.
I'm trying to remember if I put this on the list I submitted.
While you are talking, I can find out for you.
Yeah, because if it wasn't, it was very close because this is very high on my personal favorites list. I just like John's grandmother, I laughed my socks off. In fact, we were watching it together. It's hilarious. There are so many little moments in this film that I just absolutely find hysterical. I think one of the hardest scenes I've ever laughed at in any film is the bathtub scene, where where Tony Curtis's character just stands up in the bathtub, and I thought that's one of my favorite visual gags I've ever seen. I think that the character development is really good. I like that Spats Columbo is not in the movie for that long. He just kind of reappears out of nowhere. And I just really like the little details of all of the gangsters. Spats has got a Spats, Toothpick Charlie. The main gangster has a hearing aid. These little characteristics that I think get brought out are just really interesting and memorable. I'm also a big fan of when you can incorporate music into a movie, not through just score, but the music itself really well. And I like a lot of the songs and the music that pop up in this. And Jack Lemmon is my favorite actor of all time. Like if he's not number one, he's at least in the top three. And it's I haven't made a whole list of like my
Fair.
favorite.
I just think like he's either number one or he's in top three. Like there's
I'm
two
not-
other in contention.
I'm not the Kingsman. I don't have this list. I got this respect. But yeah, no, I really love this movie. I think it's got problems. Like I don't love the scene on the boat. The first scene on the boat. I can't feel anything. That scene. I don't really like that scene. I think that
The
one.
scene where they date rape each other?
It pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, just making sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, that scene alone kind of like brings the score down for me, but it's got a lot of my favorite jokes in any film.
Also, just to put this on the record, you did have this on your list. You also had this higher than another Wilder film. So
This is my favorite Wilder film.
wow, okay.
Now, don't get me wrong. That other one that's going to come up is only I was checking my list from when we did Top 100 together.
So
that other movie is only 3 movies below this one.
Kirk.
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm much closer to Bar, but I'm in the middle here. I don't think it's a hilarious movie. Like I don't like it's not like fall down laugh. I think it's more fun than it is funny. I think Lemon and Curtis are great together. I mean, I'm with Bar. I think Jack Lemmon's like top 10 to ever do it. Like he can do anything comedy or whatever he's doing, he's the best at it. And I think he's the highlight. The funniest part of the movie to me is at the end when he goes on the date with Joey Brown. And at first he's like furious he has to do it, and he just gets more and more into it. I think that's to me that's the funniest part of the movie. The Shell Oil stuff is my least favorite. And like of all the characters that are played in that movie, I think that's the one that just kind of grates on me the most. I think Marilyn Monroe is really funny in this, like just her like deadpan humor. I think she really works well. And I think she works really well with the leads. Again, like I said, the date stuff isn't amazing, but like the stuff when they're all on the train together, I think is really funny. So yeah, I think, like I said, it's not like an all-time comedy for me. It's just a really solid, fun movie. And I think I understand what John's saying, but I mean, I always look at it as a farce, especially the third act. I think it's just a really farcical movie, so I never like take it, seriously on the surface. But I can understand why he would be frustrated by that. So yeah, again, it's not like a top. It's definitely not my top Wilder. Not my top Jack Lemmon. I'm with you, Cody. I'm much more of an Odd Couple guy, but I still think it's I think it's a really good movie. Top 100. What's that?
I think I'm a grumpy old man too over like this brand of comedy, but that just fits my style. But
no, but like I said, I think it's like I said, it's not my top 20 or my top 100, but I mean it's definitely like a solid pick.
I think what works really well with Wilder too, it's like, if this isn't your cup of tea, there's like The Apartment, perfect example. There's a movie out there for Wilder's taste. Like the thing is, like Scorsese gets claimed to be the crime guy, which makes perfect sense, right? Like when he branches out, they're like, "Wow, that's really weird for him to do something different," But like when Wilder never really stayed in one lane, like he literally just bounced and did everything. So like, and that's why like I think it's funny because everybody's like, it's overall like he's the only classics director people in this community will even recognize. But overall, I think just his brand of where he can do Stalag 17 and Sunset Boulevard and The Apartment in like a chunk of time. Double Indemnity, Witness for the Prosecution. Like the man can go everywhere and just refuses to like be put in a box. So I thought that was interesting. I do really like the beginning of this movie and how it's all set up. Is like I like situational comedies. Like I find that kind of humor funny. Like when he pulls out the badge at the very beginning and they're like, "It's taken on water." Like what? And then like they just totally slowly try to put it all back together. It is like definitely like those like, "Hey, wise guy," like situations, like, and that's fine. But it just was like, that's why I'm kind of with Kirk, I always look at this like farce, like silly, but like when they first all dressed up in drag, basically, and like come into they introduce themselves and like, where'd you perform at? They just like give just a BS statement. I think like Tony Curtis and like they're just giving insane chemistry between the two of them, working really well. So it works. Again, if we talk in the of top 100 greatest films, I don't think this one makes the cut overall. Bar, you put it in your top 20. So, but this is your favorite Wilder, and you found it that funny. I think it's hard because that's a conversation that we could honestly have. It's like, where does comedies like overall? Because like I think those are harder to actually make a list because like when you watch a comedy, normally you're like, this didn't reinvent the wheel of any sort. Like there's just slapstick. Like it's not technically the best movie. Like put to screen, cinematography's not really there. The script, the jokes are. So
I'd actually argue that the cinematography in this movie is really, really good. Like that opening chase scene with the hearse, it's actually shot like really, really well. And like the moment that they open up the casket, it's just a really decent looking shot.
Yeah, I guess that's just me in the 50s. I'm like, yeah, at least they had a camera that was rolling. Like that's always my take. Because like when I look at a movie in the classroom, I'm like, this movie's picture perfect. Nah, you look at the freaking thing worked.
I can't believe they got all of those shots together and without the camera falling apart.
It's so surprising that this movie's as lit as well as it is in the Batman that came out, and you can't see shit on that highway. So I think that's just crazy to me.
Well, what you're saying about comedy, though, Cody, yeah. I think it's what it is. I think comedy is, and this sounds more negative than I mean for it to sound, but I think comedy is more disposable because a lot of times it's like, okay, you tell a joke, and okay, I've heard the joke now, so you go, I mean, it's hard to make comedy stand the test of time because unless there's a lot more to it than just the punchline. Once I've heard the punchline, what else is there for me?
Especially when like topicality is a big thing when it comes to humor.
Yeah.
I think it's overall where you have to like walk that line with it's normally comedy paired with something else. Mm-hmm. Like a true comedy, probably not, but like a romantic comedy, it has some strings to it. Dramatic comedy, it has something with it. So I think that's where it's saying. This is kind of just like a slapstick, kind of like if we're being true. So I think
it definitely goes there. Like the chase scenes at the end, like where they're just literally doing all the Looney Tunes sight gags. Like they're running into this door and then they run out the same door, but somehow they got ahead of the people that chased them. I'm like, all right, whatever.
No, John, Looney Tunes sight gags is coming in a later movie. Don't
I know, I understand, but exactly. So I'm going to call it back. You want to see a callback bar? So we call that in comedy. Anyway,
I would say it's done better in this one.
I don't know. We'll argue that later. But yeah, I totally buy the whole farcical thing. I understand that. But the thing is, in the beginning of the movie, they established like very real danger. Like Spatz is a psychopath. Like he the poor mechanic who's just fueling up the car. Like, oh, we're gonna shoot you. We're gonna shoot you too. Like usually in like comedies, like where it's like a comedy, but it's a crime comedy. The bad guy is like kind of funny too. This dude's not played funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The henchmen are great, though. I think Bar alluded to it. I mean, it looks like a Dick Tracy lineup. Like, it looks like, to recreate that cast of henchmen today, you would need, like, prosthetics and special effects. But those are just faces.
If you like gangsters with gimmicks, you're going to love Dick Tracy. There's a guy named Flat Top. The top of his head is flat. There's a guy named Icky, and he itches himself. You're going to love Dick Tracy.
I have never seen Bar actually. So
Bar actually looks like he should have been cast in Dick Tracy, but that's besides the point.
Yo, seriously, cast me. I would love to play one of those kind of characters. That's like a dream.
Jesus Christ, I'd be cast and pass on the role. It'd be my only chance. All right, so we're gonna give a star rating for something like a hot. I'll go first. I'm at 4.5 stars. I have a lot of fun with this. There's some stuff in it that I can take away, but I really, really enjoyed it. It was not like of some of the movies we've had on this. This was a very easy play this week. So yeah, it's 4.5. Bar.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how it's made my list. It's one of my favorite films. It's 4.5.
Gosh, just the top 20 films of all time, but just can't cross that.
That boat scene
that-
alone, that boat scene knocks it like half a star on its own.
Fair. Kirk.
I'm at 3.5. Solid movie.
And John.
The current slide of this movie into the abyss is hanging on to 2.5 at the moment.
Nice. I think that answers the question of does it deserve a list? No. Okay. Very next. Crap. I had it and I forgot which movie is next.
Princess Bride.
The Princess Bride. Oh man, what a delightful film. Let's talk about comedy with the fantasy element overall. This is very well, some supposedly funny, but overall funny. Yeah, Princess Bride. I think I said on the top 100, one of them or it was one while less. I said this movie has maybe lost something for me because I've watched it so many times. It used to be a comfort movie for me, and I thought it lost. I will say we're back up. We're back up. I let it breathe. I actually didn't watch it for a while. I just left it alone. Yeah, it's back. I think this movie honestly should annoy the piss out of me. If anybody knows me well enough, this movie really should just annoy the piss out of me because there's some stupid like hammy fucking moments that should just make me go irate.
All the fourth.
I'll take all the ham, please. I'll take all the ham, every bit of it. Like this is like the exception to the exception of the rules. So, like, I love it. I think there's so many great characters in this that just work, and it's the fantasy elements and like just yeah, it's just a ton of fun. I'm curious. Everybody else, of course, I'm hoping has seen this. Anybody going to surprise me and say they've never seen The Princess Bride? Okay, so I think we're covering age ranges, so this probably hit people at different points and stuff like that. So I'm curious, what was your guys' takes on before watching it, and then when you put it under the microscope of best movie of all time, how does it hold up?
I didn't see this movie until I was in my like mid to late 20s. It's not one that was like always on for me as a kid. Like honestly, the movies that were like on when I was a kid were like Paul Blart Mall Cop and shit like that. Don't worry, I grew out of it.
Wait, what?
That's not when he lived in this house.
But this movie is on my personal 100 list on YLS. It was only 4 spots below Some Like It Hot. And honestly, it probably surpasses it now. Okay. I was like, what'd you say?
Mallet, sorry.
Knowing you, I kind of thought it was some like snarky comment, but no. But yeah, I really like. First of all, I think it's William Goldman who wrote the script. It's just an airtight script. Like the fact that I can go back and forth between the story itself and Fred Savage and Peter Falk. It does it in a way that it doesn't annoy me anytime it goes to the two of them because I like them just as much as I like the characters in the actual story. Because otherwise, that would get real annoying real fast. I just love Peter Falk. Peter Falk's great. Like back in my days, books were television. But the thing that I actually really love the most about it is there's a slight level of camp, but the characters are all so charming, even when they're like villains. Like Vizzini is just a really interesting villain. There's like a smarminess to him, but you still kind of like him, even though he's doing evil things. It also just helps that Wallace Shawn is absolutely hysterical. The other thing that I love the most about this movie is like the production qualities of it. Like the Cliffs of Insanity is just like a really fun looking like visual moment. And like the costumes are all great. The makeup is all great, especially with that one guy in the pit of despair. Like I don't even remember the character's name, but he's just like completely caked.
I think he's just the albino.
Just the albino, yeah.
The albino, yes.
And there's just like so many little quotes throughout this. Like every once in a while, if I'm joking around with a friend, I'll call him a warthog-faced baboon. Yeah, it's just a very, very fun, enjoyable time. I haven't gotten sick of it yet. There's more things that I would want to talk about, but I could go on for like an hour.
For another perspective, I'm sure Kirk and I were both in elementary school when this came out. And I remember it. And hey, Andre the Giant's in this movie. So how can you not like want to watch a child? Like, I didn't know Andre the Giant did movies, and he actually his acting in this movie is better than anything he ever did in WWE. Like Rob Reiner, like got a diamond in the rough out of him. Like he felt good to me on rewatch as an adult. I was like, wow, how bad is Andre the Giant going to be? Not bad. So and I'm not gonna say he's one of the weaker characters, but Bar's 100% right. Every character in this movie is great. Like even like Chris Sarandon and Christopher Guest. As the total bad guys. Also fun to watch. Like the whole scene, like when they're tracking them, and he's just like, and he knows everything about tracking them. And of course, you can't forget Carol Kane and Billy Crystal. That whole scene is fantastic. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Princess Bride. I always have been. Cool.
It's weird seeing Christopher Guest be arguably the most subtle performance in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, John's completely right. I was in elementary school. Me and some friends used to have sleepovers every weekend. We had like half a dozen movies that were in a rotation for what we rented, and Princess Bride was in that, so I watched this a ton. And I got the exact same thing out of this rewatch that John did. Watching Andre the Giant, I'm like, man, it is sad that he didn't get a chance to act more, because like he's like, when he was a wrestler, he was just always like the big, dumb, quiet guy. But he's actually got like a lot of charm in this movie. And obviously, there's the language and the accent to deal with, which isn't bad, but I think it makes him. People think he's maybe like dumber or worse actor than he is, but just his interactions with Buttercup are just really precious, and he was really good. I wish he would have done more. Overall, I like this movie. I just don't feel a real strong connection to it. I don't know why, because it is so well done. I don't know. It's going to sound weird, but it's like it almost feels like an exercise to me, and I'm saying that as a positive, where it's like you would go to a like screenwriting class, and the teacher would like, we're going to write a screenplay, and you would write this for the class. And I don't know if there's like a basicness to it. And again, I'm saying these things as negatives. No. It's really hard, and I'm trying to figure out myself why I don't feel a super strong connection to this movie. And it's hard to find the words to understand, but I think you can kind of see where I'm going with it, where it is such it's like the Paul Konerko of movies. Like it's a really good utility infielder. He's going to hit 295 for the season, but he's never going to be a Hall of Famer. And that's what this movie is to me. It's just a really solid movie, and I have nothing bad to say about it. I just don't feel personally connected to it for some reason.
I don't know if Paul Konerko was the greatest person, but maybe I'll have to look at his stats. If you tell me in my brain, Paul Konerko was a fantastic first baseman, but no, I went through my stages of in and out. I maybe you were more advanced in school. If I gave me an assignment and tried to write this, I'm not
saying I'd write it.
I'm falling off.
No, I know. I would be able to write. I'm saying that's what you would like be trying to produce in the class.
Yeah, and like just something about it. I don't know, but like it's so quotable. Like it's probably one of my most quoted movies. Like and like. I still that scene you killed my father, prepare to die, like that will like be one of those clips I pop on every once in a while. I love it when he's like, offer me money. Yes. Offer me power too. Yes. So, and then he just ends him. Like it's such a perfect thing. Like he puts him in the palm of his hands and I want my father back, you son of a bitch. It's just like such a good line.
I love
and
his
then,
commitment to this role too. And if you even hear him interviewed today, he still talks about this role with such a passion. Like you can tell he just loved this character.
well, yeah, and
loved
he
playing
like
it.
pictured his
So-
father in this moment. Like he lost his,
Yeah.
I think he lost his father when he did the role. So like it was like an actual like emotion that he felt, which is just awesome. And then I would be the Wallace and that scene alone is worth the price of admission. Like just every time he's interacting with everyone is just so good. Like you're the Princess Bride guy. If you never went on to do anything, you are literally that guy. He's so good to me. Land War in Asia and like
Just gonna have to
it's
get
so
another
good.
giant.
Yeah. Just so good. Just like and like the goofiness again, like this movie should really I just hate. Like there's so many things. For some reason it's enough stupidity with enough heart that makes it. And then Billy Crystal also like we've done that outro forever in Melee of just like the
Have fun storming the castle.
Everyone's home in the castle.
Think you're gonna make it?
It would take a miracle.
Bye.
It's just so good. Like it just works. Like top 100. Like and like this is we're talking like kind of directors tonight, and like it didn't like fall into that way, but like it's kind of like a player that like a good example is like has like a run, but never like longevity. But that run was Hall of Fame worthy of a
Russell
run.
Wilson.
He's coming back.
Don't hate the comparison, but it's just like, oh, he did it so well for so long, but just not long enough. Like Rob Reiner's run with these movies involved, that like 5-6 picture run, crazy. Like what he was able to accomplish and do, because like, and then you're like, what did he do after? You're just like, yeah, well, things happened.
An
Things
LBJ
happen.
biopic, The Bucket List.
Well, you know what? He would be if he came out when M. Night Shyamalan came out. Somebody would be like, "Next Spielberg, dead." Like bombs. Somebody wrote something about Rob, and he just fell off the map. Like, yeah. So I think I honestly he makes really like this movie's just. This is the one movie I found that just works for all age ranges. Like it really just holds for everybody. So it's like one of those special ones. Anything else? I know it's hard when one of these movies are on because it's like one of the most talked about movies. So it's like we can just quote it back and forth between each other, but doesn't even have anything to say.
I think the only thing we need to talk about is like Cary Elwes, as Wesley is great to the point that I think Mel Brooks just brought him back for the Robin Hood movie and was like, "Can you do that again?"
Yeah.
And he just played the same character.
Yeah.
That's
a movie. That's a funny movie.
One more thing that I do want to bring up is the Mark Knopfler's score.
I was going to ask, what do we think about the score?
I really love it. I think it doesn't sound as full as like a lot of other scores do. It doesn't have like that big orchestration kind of thing. And like a little bit of it sounds like self-produced almost. But I kind of like that quality for this particular film. And the thing I love most about it is the playfulness of the score. The scene where Wesley and Inigo are having their sword duel. Anytime the sword like gets out of anyone's hand, whether it be like knocked out or they literally just like toss it, the score kind of like stops, and then it only starts once it's back in their hand again. Like little things like that, I thought were really fun.
Yeah, it's going back to everything else I said about the movie. I feel like the score is trying to be like the stereotypical fantasy adventure score, and it succeeds, but at the same time, it feels like a typical fantasy adventure score. So it's another thing I don't know exactly how to feel about it.
Just looking to Mark Knopfler's like career as a musician, it'll make so much sense. It really will.
I think the score kind of works for me just for like it feels like nostalgic. Like, and that's what we talked about a while ago. Like, I can't remove the nostalgia away from like movies at this point. Like, when something draws like from a family memory, so when that score happens, it's like brings me back to a simpler time. That's what I would like to describe it. So, like, it's so hard to eliminate. Like, I couldn't tell you one negative about the score whatsoever because as soon as it's like back, I'm in. So, yeah. Anything else that we've talked? I know we all tried to say something at once, and then. So, John, did you have anything else?
No, we're good. I think we touched on everything in this movie, unless I'm wrong.
Okay, perfect. We'll go Bar first. What's your rating?
4.5 stars.
I only had a half. It's a solid one, or would you wish you could move it a quarter one way or the other?
Oh, I would be a quarter. 4.75.
You're disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself, John. What's your rating?
I'm also at 4.5 in The Princess Bride.
Now, Kirk.
I probably came off sounding more negative on it than I actually am. I'm at 3.5. It's another really solid movie. Again, not something I would put on top 100, but I'm not going to begrudge anybody having it there.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I'll tell you, man.
It's 5 stars for me. It's brilliant. There's not a thing in this movie I would change. So, yeah. I think that was low because you gave it 3.5 because you're an angry man. All right, so our next.
We'll talk about Angry Men in a minute. A couple movies from now. We'll talk about.
You know what? You're able to fully bring. That's called a callback. You're able to fully bring that one back in 3 picks. All right, so this one's going to sound pretty negative. I don't know how everybody else is going to feel about this, but this is. Two of us are going to carry some weight from previous episodes on this next one. It is Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. So to catch two people that weren't on the original episode with Fellowship, so all three have made this list. Our overall belief is one should represent the franchise, if that's the case. I feel more. So this is my favorite of the trilogy. But again, I never sit there and watch. I never just come in and just pop on Two Towers and be like, well, we watch Two Towers. I want to watch it as a cohesive story. So this movie, of all, definitely does not deserve to be on this list because if one had to just be here, to put the middle is just ludicrous. It's crazy to me. It just is.
A lot of people do, though.
What's crazier? The people that put this on there, no one else, none of them had Return of the King or Fellowship of the Ring. They only had the Two Towers, which just seemed crazy. Yeah. So I expect you, if you're going to put them, I expect all of them to be there instead of just one. And if I expect one, I expect the first one or your last one. The middle's just weird. I can argue to death. I think this movie is brilliant. I think the series itself is brilliant. I don't think it's beautiful. I think it's master what they were able to do. I don't think they should ever retouch it. I don't think you should just leave it as is because anything you try to do, I think you could possibly just destroy. Just enjoy what you have. I think Back to the Future. People have told me numerous times, I can tell you an interesting story about what the remake could. I don't want to ever see that. I don't care. It could look better, visuals, everything. No, stay away. Shot for what? Isn't there that thing I never just saw? But somebody did a shot for shot of Psycho, right? And it's awful, right?
Oh yeah,
that was the
But it's a shot for shot, right? And it's still terrible, but it's updated. Terrible. You just can't recreate. So that's my take.
You literally did that just to see if he could do it.
The rumor is he did it just to keep anybody else from doing it.
That's what I heard too. He made it bad on purpose so that nobody else would dare touch it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very smart man then. Everybody else. I'm curious, John and Bar, where you guys sit overall in the trilogy and how this movie sits on this list. Overall thoughts?
Well, this is another movie that I've had to watch a lot for this community, and it's had the opposite effect of me. I've never been a Lord of the Rings fan. I'm not a fan of it, whatever, in general. But these movies are are absolutely awesome. Like I love all the Lord of the Rings movies, but I'll never be like a nerd about it. But I appreciate everything Cody said. Pretty much everything you said, like I agree with 1,000%. Like don't ever remake these movies. Peter Jackson's a genius. Every single technical aspect of this movie is great. The action sequences in all 3 of these movies, all 6 of the movies, the action sequences are freaking incredible. Like CGI, no CGI, whatever. Like I love every frame of all these movies pretty much. It is weird to watch it by itself. Like I popped it on without having watched Fellowship before it. I'm like, where are we? Okay, I know where we are. And you're right. Like a ton doesn't like necessarily happen in this movie versus Fellowship and Return of the King, but this is important. Like a lot of important things happen, and there's a lot of cool characters. Love Brad Dourif and everything. Everybody knows that. But yeah, I'm overall high on everything in this franchise. So without being a fanboy, you'll never catch me dead saying anything outside of here.
The Lord of the Rings trilogy is a trilogy that I highly respect. I just don't come back to it that often. And it's not because I think that it's like bad or anything like that. No, it's very good. It's just something that doesn't capture me as much as it does other people. I'm that weirdo. I've never had a problem with watching a movie like either out of order or like something in the middle by itself. Look, like for example, I've watched John Wick Chapter 1, Chapter 3, then Chapter 2. Like the first Star Wars.
You're worse than Koho. You should be put down. That's crazy.
Cody, you're the one with the problem here.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I will defend I will bring it up to the audience, and I will prove my case in 1 second. But go for it.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it may have been 3-1-2 that I watched that in. So like watching this one without having watched the first one is not a big problem to me. However, if you asked me which of the 3 I would have the highest, it's not 2. I'm actually honestly a fan of the first one more than the other 2. But I do love like the technical elements of this film are absolutely incredible. Like the makeup work on the Uruk-hai themselves is absolutely astonishing. The actual levels of chainmail that they created for each individual person is really impressive. And the story is really good. There are some moments that I kind of wish, like, I think they're good, but I wish they were a little bit better. Like the whole flashback sequence between Arwen and Aragon, like that one in particular. But there are a few moments in this film that are kind of Peter Jackson silly. Like you see a lot of his stuff from like older films in this, like when Legolas is literally sliding down the stairs, shooting arrows on a shield, just like sliding down. It can get a little silly, but overall, I really do like this movie a lot.
Hold on before anybody else. Sorry, Kirk.
Good.
For your first time of John Wick, or just going back to it?
First time.
Oh, that is crazy. Yeah, that's
what are we doing? Why?
The first Spider-Man film I ever saw, Spider-Man 3. First Star Wars film, Revenge of the Sith.
Don't say anything.
Let that comment
slip by itself.
First MCU film was Winter Soldier.
Just
actually,
stop
no,
responding.
that one's actually not true now that I think about it.
Kirk, go ahead.
Yeah, I've said before about these movies. I'm like Bar, like I respect the heck out of them. I respect everybody's love for them. If you want me to, if I come over to your house and you're putting Lord of the Rings on, I'll sit there and watch it with you. I'll pop them on every once in a while by myself. But at the same time, if I woke up tomorrow and these movies had completely disappeared from the planet, I probably wouldn't bat an eyelash. I just don't have any connection, or they don't really have any real importance to me. The third one has always, or this one has always been my least favorite of the 3. 3 of 3, I should say. I agree. I think as a representative on the list, I think this one is the least deserving to be on here. And I'm going to say the same thing. All 3 when we talk about these. I think when people say, "Oh, blank Lord of the Rings is my favorite movie," well, why is it your favorite movie? Is it because of everything that's contained just in that movie, or is it everything that happens and everything that happens to those characters within the span of the trilogy? I think it's a little disingenuous when people try to claim one of these movies as a favorite just because it's more than the sum of the parts. But anyway, rewatching this now, it kind of went down for me a little bit. Just because I do feel like a lot of this is filler. Like I feel like other than the introduction of Golem, and the resurrection of Gandalf, if you go from Fellowship to Return of the King directly, you're not missing that much. Like I think Rohan it's the same. Protecting Rohan's like the most important thing in the world in this movie. And then you get to Return of the King. It's like, oh, it's all about Gondor. Like you didn't need. I mean, other than having them show up to help in the fight, it didn't really matter that much.
But you're saying the Helm's Deep battle doesn't matter?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, like it's a fun scene to watch, but to the story, like you could move on from the story without it. Like I said, you go from Shell to Return without
you. Like how many people? I kind of agree with Kirk. How many people do you hear for Rohan? Everyone says for Gondor. It's like nobody says for Rohan.
Yeah, and I agree with Bar. I think I said this about Fellowship. The orcs look fantastic. They are just the makeup and the effects of them are great, and especially when you compare them to the Hobbit and the CGI dumpster fire that you got from there. I think they look great. However, I think there are some scenes like the human raiders and some of the other people. And I understand like you had a cast of hundreds and you had to caution everybody it's hard. But there's some like real like Renaissance fair looking characters in this movie if you look close. My other gripe about this, and it might be just because I've watched this one most recently, but I feel like there's a lot of moments in here where it's like I'm supposed to care about stuff that's like a big deal from the book, but like the movie does nothing to like when Gandalf calls Shadowfax, it's like this big moment and the music swells and he's like Shadowfax, king of horses, and then they show him it's just a horse walking towards him. I'm like, why is this supposed to matter to me? And then, like, during Helm's Deep, when the king's like, the horn of Helm's Deep will blow again, and they show every character, they're like, oh my God, they're going to blow the horn, and Gimli blows the horn as this big hero moment. I'm like, why do I care that this horn is blowing? Like,
it sounds like a horn in every other film.
Exactly. And I'm sure there's, like, 3 chapters about it in the book, and it's a super important thing. But, like, the movie gives me nothing, no reason to care about these things at all. So just little nitpicks like that. Like I said, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's terrible. I think it is the third of the trilogy quality-wise and, deserving of recognition wise. The Ents. The Ents are the best thing in Lord of the Rings. That's the other thing. Get Amazon Prime, give me the Ent spinoff. That's what we all want to see. But other than that, again, not bad, but it shouldn't be on the list.
The Ents are the involuntary incels of Middle Earth. It didn't mean to be that way. They just wound up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to say that you're like I understand your points and your nitpicks on it, but you also, if the movies disappeared, you would have no connection. So overall, like, I think the overall story, because I think there's a lot in this movie that is maybe not like, I guess, crucial to like does it move the story along where there's actually like conflict through the group? That's what works for me in this situation. It doesn't have to be like this. Well, we battled about this last time. You need a band to have fights and stuff internal to make a band movie interesting. So you need actual people like dying to make sense.
You need conflict in the movie, yes. I fully admit, and I will fully admit, I always say this too. If I was 10 years younger or 15 years younger when these movies came out, I would definitely be singing a completely different tune about it.
Yeah. Okay. Ratings on this one, I'm at 5. That's an easy one for me. Kirk.
Don't kill me. It dropped down to 3 for me on this one.
You don't have to talk to me. You have to talk to Tim. I'm not the keeper of these movies. John.
I'm also at a 5. Peter Jackson's a god.
Bar.
I appreciate the technical elements,
2.0.
but it just doesn't hit for me the way it does other people. 4.
Still solid, but fine. The last positive movie of the night we were talking about. I would like to invite Jack to visit the next movie with his axe. We'll take care of that thing real quick. We're talking about The Shining. I am not a horror guy. And I guess this is an argument. Maybe we have the professor here so he can enlighten us. I guess this can qualify for a horror movie, but like maybe it's more psychological. Like there's horror elements, sure, but like maybe it's not the traditional like horror. I don't know.
This is a horror movie, Cody. No, this is a horror movie, straight up.
Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't line. So that's why it works for me. Like there's no like. I guess there's no real like fear elements in this. It's more like a deranged like lead in. There's scary elements into it, but overall, I'm never like scared. I was never scared watching this at all, and I'm a pussy when it comes to horror movies. But this is just one that just I think is absolutely brilliant, and I think of all the movies that were on this list, like going back in time, how ridiculed this movie was at the time, it's still one of the most baffling things. Like Jack Nicholson will like Razzie for worst actor. Like I think Shelley Duvall like won for like that in the time for worst actress. Like this movie is just panned and hated when it came out, which is still just crazy to me. But yeah, it's one of my favorite horror. It's in my top 100. I think it's brilliant. Also a big fan of Dr. Sleep. I don't know how everybody else feels about that one, but I'm
never seen Dr. Sleep.
After being convinced to watch that movie, it's a long ass fucking pairing. Oh, I didn't bring up my point. I want to bring up my point real quick. Hold on. We're gonna bat it all back. Kirk thinks I'm weird because when I watch a movie that's in a series, I have to start with the first one. I don't want to just jump in the middle of anything and just watch it. I can't ever just pull
this
on.
Is rewatches you're talking about.
Rewatches. I never can just go there and be like, I'm going to watch Prisoner of Azkaban today because I want to watch Prisoner of Azkaban. No, I'm going to watch the first one and I'm going to go through the series because if I'm going to rewatch it, I want to watch the entire story that they're telling, not just one off. So he thinks that's weird.
So if you're in the mood to just watch, hey, I want to watch Undiscovered Country today, you got to watch 5 Star Trek movies to get the Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
If you're gonna watch The Last Crusade, you have to watch Raiders and
yes. But that's not a chore. That's a enjoyment. Like if I'm setting up myself to, I really want to watch The Last Crusade. What I'm really telling myself is I want to watch the Indiana Jones trilogy. Like I never sit there and like I never have a desire. Like it's normally like I want to see that, but also I wouldn't mind watching the whole thing. And by the way,
I think a distinction should be made
in a Star Trek movie.
Yeah, you have to make a distinction between movies that are linked together story-wise and movies that are just like separate. I think you can watch Last Crusade by itself, just because
sure you could, yeah.
Separate adventures of Indiana Jones, you know. Whereas The Hobbit, you have to like you can't just jump in the middle of it, you know.
Yeah, so, like personally, I could watch the Dark Knight as is and be fine. But if I'm going to, I would like to watch Batman Begins and stuff. And Bart, you're not even really allowed to fucking speak to me on what movie watching. You're a crazy person. You watch the third John Wick and then watch 2 and 1.
1 and 2.
So what you're saying, Cody, is whenever you're in the mood to watch Get Him to the Greek, you have to watch Forgetting Sarah Marshall first.
Yeah. Because I'm always in the mood for Get Him into the Greek, baby. Give me that movie Russell Brand in one movie.
And Jonah Hill.
Least controversial of that movie.
That is true.
All right, so Shining. Back to Shining. Again, we're going to cover some age ranges here. I'm really just curious. I'm going to pass it to John first because the professor's here. So go ahead.
I am of the school of both. I mean, Doctor Sleep is better than The Shining. I'm of that school. Both movies are great. Doctor Sleep edges out The Shining, not even because of the controversy or because like Kubrick and Stephen King like went their separate ways. That does weigh on me as a horror fan that like Stephen King had such problems with the movie. But I don't think anything that Kubrick did was so offensive. But I also imagine Stephen King was high on a bunch of drugs when they got in all those fights as well. So there's that. As far as The Shining goes, I think your point, Cody, that it's not scary, that's a fine point. I don't think horror movies necessarily need to be scary. The Shining's kind of like a tragedy, actually, because like all of these elements are laid out like right before Jack Torrance, like, hey, there's this job and like you're down on your luck, you'll take this job. Just so you know, the last dude that had this job fucking killed his whole family. We don't know why. And a bunch of other weird shit happened here. Do you want the job? Yeah, I'm desperate. I'll take the job. And then he basically, by taking the job, he fucks around and finds out. So it lays the groundwork for a lot of movies to come after it. Obviously the source material is legendary. This is peak pre divot Stephen King adaptations because it starts going down from here before it comes back up later on. The Shining is an absolute classic, deserves to be where it is on Letterboxd, deserves to be anywhere on people's top 100 lists. So I am a fan of this movie, but like I said, I like Dr. Sleep better.
I'll go since Kirk's not here. I'm kind of with Cody. I had heard for like a long time how this is like one of the scariest films, and like my mom actually talks about how she thinks it's like the scariest movie she's ever seen. And I watched it when I was like in my late 20s, and I was like, not really. That doesn't mean that I didn't like the story overall. I thought it was a really good story. The performance that I actually really like a lot is Scatman Crothers. Like, I really like his performance because there is a genuine like tenderness when he's talking to Danny, and like it's one of those moments of like, oh, I found someone like me, then they don't know what they're in for, so I want to make sure that they like know, kind of like mentorship kind of thing. We're in Fandom now. I don't. Man, I feel like I'm going to be mean saying this. I don't love Shelley Duvall in this film. I think that the moment that like Jack's coming at her and doing the Wendy, come here, that moment's great for her. Every moment leading up to it, I kind of don't love her. And yeah, it's really good. I like, as John was saying, I think it works better as like a tragedy than it does a horror film. So that does, unfortunately, it does kind of like skew my viewing of it sometimes. But it's a really good movie overall.
I was here while everybody was talking about it. I could hear what everybody said. I've talked about this before in a little bit, but it's hard for me to separate this movie because it's a very personal movie to me. It's weird to say, but the more I think about it, I don't think there's like a more foundational or like just movie for me than The Shining. This is the first movie that I remember sitting down and watching beginning to end as a kid. I was probably 4 or 5 years old when I first saw this. I had parents who worked shift work and were kind of, not necessarily paid attention all the time, and I had older siblings who were terrible people. So they set me down to watch this. And the first time I watched it, I was terrified. I'm a little kid, I'm seeing all stuff, little kid being attacked by it. What's more of a nightmare as a little kid than your dad trying to kill you. So it terrified me. I was scarred and traumatized. But then, the next day after, my brother was going to the house going, Wendy, give me the bat, Wendy. And we're all laughing about it. We start quoting it. So, we watch it again, and now it's kind of, it's still scary, but now there's like some funny stuff to it we're seeing. So that really like set the tone for my taste in movies, my taste in horror movies, my sense of humor. Like a lot of things just started to come together there for me. And then as I got older, Jack Nicholson was the first. I'd see like my parents would be watching 5 ECPs and something. I'd walk in, I'd see Jack Nicholson, and I'd be like, oh, that's Jack Torrance, but it's not really. And that's kind of how I learned what an actor was. And then I got older and I learned about Stephen King, and I learned about Jack Nicholson as an actor. I learned who Stanley Kubrick was. So just a lot of things came up through me, and again, like it was all, this is still to this day is like with me and my siblings, this is our like family movie. We still talk about, we still quote, we still watch it there sometimes. And even with Dr. Sleep, I went to see Dr. Sleep with my sisters, and just deeper connection with me there because, like there's like a lot of addiction in my family. Some people have overcome it, some people have, succumbed to it. So, just that connection with this movie and also Dr. Sleep and the book. So all that to say is like, it's very hard for me to like look at this as just another movie. But beyond that, I've always loved it. Like I've always enjoyed it, and see, like I said, from the time where it was just like a very visceral experience for me to getting older and understanding filmmaking and the process and the details in it. I've loved it every step of the way. I think this is just like you said. It's not necessarily. It's not like in your face scary, but I think it is just so unnerving. And I think there's this constant like feel of, even though you're in this giant hotel, it's so claustrophobic. Obviously the scene when he's on his bike and he sees the sisters, but even the sound design, like when he's pedaling, and the scenes before that when he's pedaling, and he's going from like linoleum to carpet, you hear that sound difference, and just the hotel, the way the hotel's laid out. If you've ever watched Room 237, the documentary, a lot of wacky stuff on there. But the one cool thing they talk about is they show a map of the hotel and how it makes no sense. How there's just, when he goes to visit, when he goes to the initial interview with the manager, there's a window in his office where there can't possibly be a window. And there's just little like subliminal, really unsettling things throughout the movie that make you feel a certain way. And I think that's what's great. Like I said, it's not scary, like, oh my God, this is so horrifying, but you just feel something bad throughout the entire movie. I think that's what's great about it.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I'm also, I don't disagree fully. Like, I love Dr. Sleep, so like I don't know. I don't know. I think they're both pretty good, so I don't know if I would ever rate one higher than the other. But that I could have been even less interested in a movie when I heard it was Connection to the Shining sequel or whatever. I said that is hell no. I will never watch that movie. And then everybody kept talking about it, and that's a movie I highly recommend to check out. Rebecca Ferguson is like insane in that film. Does not get enough talked about of how good she is in that movie. Scared, and then one of the reasons I'm scared of top hats to this day. But thanks, Will.
I'll say too. John was talking about the whole Stephen King thing. To me, it's like they're both great. I think you could tell it's a great book. It's a great movie. They have differences, and I have I have no problem with either. I enjoy them both, and that's what I think. That's the magic of Dr. Sleep, is that Dr. Sleep is a sequel to the story of the movie, but the characters and themes of the book, and I think that it just that is woven so well together. I think that's just an amazing feat in and of itself. Watching it this time, I was watching it with in mind of like a lot of the complaints Stephen King has, and I don't know if I agree with him. Because his biggest complaint is that the book is about Jack's slow descent and how he succumbs. It's the metaphor for alcoholism. He succumbs to it, and how at the beginning that Jack in the movie is a psychopath from the beginning. But I don't agree with it. I think you see there's certain moments. The scene where he wakes up from the dream. I think I think that's real. I think he's seriously terrified of what's happening to him, and that scene where Danny comes in the bedroom and he hugs him. He's like, I love you, Danny. I think he's dealing with what's happening. He knows what's happening to him, and he doesn't want it to. I think he honestly loves this kid, and he realizes what this hotel is trying to do with him. He's trying to fight it. So I don't necessarily agree that he's gone the whole time. I think there's the seeds of it, but I think there's more tension and more of a fight there than King gets credit for.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think the one thing that I think what Bar and what Kirk said, I think this movie does hit differently if you're a mother or a child. I think watching it as like a dad or an adult male, you have no stakes in the movie. I do think Shelley Duvall is actually pretty good in this movie, just because like she's being cast as like the wife that stays, like the weak woman that stays with this guy that basically almost like he dislocated Danny's shoulder in like the pre-story. Like he had this highly abusive incident with her kid, and she stays, she doesn't leave, so that's fine. And then also when you put yourself in Danny's shoes, and that's also berserk, like watching it as a kid. So I think when you come back to it as an adult, like you're Jack, and like it's
Yeah. The one thing that was interesting to me too about the wife who stays, I never caught on this before. When she tells the story at the beginning about to the doctor about when the incident with Jack dislocating his shoulder, she's like, he promised not to drink again, and he hasn't had a drink in 5 months. And then later on, when Jack tells the story of the bartender about him doing it, he's like, it was 3 years ago. So it's just really interesting that she tried to make it sound like, oh yeah, he's been on the wagon ever since, but there was 2.5 years there where he was still drinking.
Right. Okay. We will get ratings. John.
Shining kind of always wavers back and forth between 4.5 and 5 for me, depending on my mood. I'm currently at a 4.5, but I think it'll go back up eventually, just because Dr. Sleep kind of repositioned it in my mind. But I'm at a 4.5 currently.
I'm at 5. It was 4.5. It's now moved up to a 5 for me. I will probably watch Dr. Sleep this week because after watching this, I would like to watch that now. Bar, Shelley Duvall hater. Go ahead.
Oh my god!
You know Kubrick made her cry almost every day on set. Right?
Oh, and that's terrible. That was terrible. Yeah.
So maybe cut her some slack. A-hole.
No. It's 4. It's a 4 for me. Once again, it's one that I really respect. I understand why people love it so much. Yeah. So I wouldn't shame anyone for putting it on their top 100 or top 20.
You can't shame anybody for movie watching. You're in the same side of Koho in my eyes now. Kirk.
Why
don't you watch them at 2.5 speed?
I had this.
Madman. Sorry.
I had this on my top 20 for the list, so it's definitely an all-timer for you, 5 stars.
All right. And that was the show. Thank you all for coming. We can just cut it off now. All right, last movie of the night has zero business whatsoever being on this list of 100 greatest films. We are talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I'll let the positive, crazy people talk first. Go for it.
This isn't my top 100.
Jesus Christ.
Look. Bye, Cody. It's Kirk's show now. Play the music. Look. I get it. I get it if this is not your thing. I respect that. There's a lot of things about this movie that I absolutely love. Bob Hoskins being one of them. I think Bob Hoskins is genuinely giving an amazing performance in this film. There are moments where he's over the top, but that it calls for that when he is. I really like a lot of the subtle jokes that are in the background. Like the scene where he's walking through Maroon Studios and there's just like a bunch of cows getting prepped for an audition and it's a cattle call. Like, as an actor, I really respected that and appreciated that joke. And some of these visual gags, I think, just hit really, really well. I think that the moment where Roger runs through Maroon's window and it's just the most perfect imprint of him of all time. Like stuff like that, I think is just like really funny. And even though you know right away who the villain is, there's no mistaking who the villain of this movie is once they pop on screen. I still really like Doom as a villain. And I think Christopher Lloyd's performance is fantastic. I think a lot of the humor really works well. Like the moment that Roger slips out of the handcuff and it's like, you were able to do that the whole time kind of thing.
Only when it's funny.
Exactly. Um, stuff like that is quite on my alley. It is very like Looney Tunes, Marx Brothers, chaotic humor. And if you guys have known me for a couple years now, chaotic humor is kind of my thing. So I love this movie. I wouldn't dare put it in the top 20 greatest films of all time, but it's definitely in my top 100.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cody. First of all, Cody, I stayed on cam for the Breakfast Club, so you got to get back on here. Second of all, yeah, I really enjoy this movie. I think it's really good. I feel, to me, the main thing is just the technical feat of how they blended the animation in real life. It wasn't just like a matter of, oh, we're going to superimpose animation onto, because that had been done before, Pete's Dragon and stuff like that. The fact, the way the cartoons interact with the physical world. I mean, in that nightclub scene, when you have the octopus bartender and he's juggling all those glasses and he has real physical glasses and real physical shakers, and the penguin bartender's walking around with real trays and real glasses, is just so cool. And the way they did that is just so amazing. The amount of effort and work, and it's somebody who just loves and respects practical effects and work like that. The effort that went into making that is just so amazing. I think that has to be talked about and given its due for this movie. I do think it's fun. And there's a very specific subgenre of movie that I love. It's when you take something fantastical and make it mundane and just put it in the world. It just becomes a normal thing. I love that. And I love that about this movie. Just like, yeah, cartoons are real, they exist, and this is how we interact with them. This is how they live in the world. I think that's really cool. And I love, like Bar said, the different gags of bringing, like, what would it be like if, these characters were real. The idea of the Warner Brothers cartoons and the Disney, just having those on the screen at the same time, is hilarious. And I noticed this time on the rewatch, it's funny because the deal was that Bugs and Mickey had to spend the exact same amount of time on screen. And there's a scene where I noticed for the first time when Bob Hoskins is leaving the studio for the first time and all the cartoons in the background, Bugs Bunny just walks by real quick. And you don't. He's walking by in the background. So I rewatched the scene where Mickey and Bugs are parachute down, and Mickey comes on screen like 1 second before.
Thank you.
So they just had Bugs walk by just for that second to make up for it. But just the fact that another coup they were able to pull off is to get those two together. You'd never see that again. That's never going to happen again ever.
No.
So that just like a lightning in a bottle there. And I just love the combination of how this is like childlike magic, but it's still wall-to-wall sexuality, alcoholism, murder, and they blend those two things perfectly. All those things perfectly. I think that's what's so crazy about this movie. And I mean, again, this is a movie where I was the best and worst possible age when this movie came out. I think I was probably like 11 when this came out. So I was still, during that nightclub scene, I was still young enough to be really excited to see Daffy and Donald duck on stage at the same time. Like, oh, it's Daffy and Donald. That's awesome. But then immediately Jessica Rabbit comes out, and I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? This is a really weird thing I'm experiencing right now. So it was just a bad time, or like I said, best or worst time possible to watch that movie. But yeah, again, I'm not calling this a top 100 all-time movie, but I mean, you have to respect everything this movie achieves.
Everything Kirk said, pretty much. Like I'm slightly younger than Kirk. I think I was 9. My parents took me to the theater to see this. So yeah, I think I was always struck by just like how cool it looked. Like when you watch like older Warner Brothers cartoons or older Disney cartoons, they do look kind of grainy. So when they kind of revamped it and everybody was just really crisp on screen, it was like really refreshing as a kid, especially when you're watching all these syndicated cartoons like your entire childhood life. It was like a brand new vision for animation. And also shirtless Bob Hoskins. Let's go.
I do want to point out one little thing that I also caught this time around. Is how much hair Bob Hoskins has. No. When he first walks into his office and he puts his hat down, he puts it down on like a Maltese falcon, and I was like, "Oh, come on, that's really fun."
I never noticed that before. And yeah, wasn't this originally like a sequel, written as a sequel to Chinatown?
It was a book first.
Yeah, but I mean, like the movie script was like the core movie
Oh.
script was supposed to be a sequel to like the whole like Cloverleaf thing was because that was the next utility that they were going to take on as public transportation.
Oh,
So
wow.
like yeah, so that they took the book and they merged those two things together.
Okay. So, yay, cartoons and humans on screen together. How quippy and fun. Listen, that's fine. Performances are overall completely overrated from this movie. Everybody thinks like Bob Hoskins is moving heaven and earth in this movie. Oh my god, he's Bob Hoskins. Just enjoy it like he's grumpy Bob Hoskins with a cartoon around him. Roger Rabbit has to be one of the most annoying cartoon characters that's ever existed, and I have to deal with him way too long in this movie. And the angry Bob Hoskins doesn't help overshine that part of that movie for too long. I'm glad that Jessica Rabbit was a sexual awakening for so many individuals. I'm glad you all got bricked up watching it. Doesn't make this movie any better than what it was. It just is the same movie, just. And again, granted, came to this movie way too late in life. Fine. I saw Jessica Rabbit like, that's fucking really a sexualized cartoon. Fine, cool, but didn't do anything for me. Yeah, I don't think Christopher Lloyd. I think he's bad in this movie. If you want my honest opinion, I think he's bad.
You think he's overacting?
I think that's the point that he is doing, right? But he's also overacting as Emmett Brown, and let me tell you, I can stand that Doc Brown over this one any day of the week and twice on Sunday. No, that's not the critique, and I understand when an actor, that's always like a great cop out for some people. They're overacting because that's the part of the character they're overacting. Guess what? When you overact in a movie that I don't like, it's more annoying than a movie when you overact in a movie I do like. It's just the fact of the matter. I also just don't have any enjoyment of like those cartoons and stuff. Like I understand like that's supposed to be the cool like gag where they like come on screen and like I just don't care like at all like that. I hate happiness. I hate joy. I'm a miserable, angry old man in this one, and I'm fine to take it. But if I was born in the 80s, I bet this movie would be like fantastic for me. Seen in 2020. Nah, it ain't it, guys. A top 100 movie, please. It's not even close. If we just take the animation aside, it's not top animated of all time. Not even close. So, but I am still so confused that this may sound like the most offensive thing to you guys, but the way that people talk about this, they talk like this is like cutting the groundwork that Hoskins is doing in this movie, that he's never acted like this. Anytime I've ever seen Bob Hoskins, this is Bob Hoskins. Like everybody claims that Denzel does the Denzel thing. This is the Bob Hoskins thing. He's always like this. Every movie I've ever seen. This one, he's just got a cartoon to yell at. I'm happy for him, but he's not like an Oscar-nominated performance. Stop.
You can't tell me that this Bob Hoskins is the same Bob Hoskins as in Hook. Like, you can't tell me that these two performances are the same.
Sure, those are two. I'll show you another movie. Denzel Washington and his in a movie called Heart Condition. Same exact performance. He's a racist, but it's the same exact performance, I promise you. Because I think in Hook, yeah, he's playing a different... But if he's left to his own devices and not playing like a certain... Like, if he shows up, that's who he is.
I don't agree.
Denzel shows up at Roman J. Esquire, and that's not the same as Coach Boone, but he still does the same mannerisms. Same thing with Bob Hoskins. So,
Yes,
Oscar-
actors do remain the same human beings, even though they're playing different characters. That happens. That is a fact.
Right, but you can tell they change it up. Bob Hoskins don't change it up. Bob Hoskins is Bob Hoskins, and he's like a C tier actor. Like it works. Like when he shows up, like he's fine to pop in and out.
Wow.
He pops in and out. Like you can take him or leave him, but I don't think
You're lucky he's
anybody
dead. You're lucky.
Anybody could have. Honestly, let's be real with ourselves. Anybody could have done this role. Like an angrier guy, like played a cop, could have done his role in this movie.
Could anyone have been Mario?
I will say this too. Like
Yes.
you said, he never changes up.
Chris
He changes up. He changes up in this movie.
Yeah.
He changes up as he has that. That's what's great about this. I love his character arc where he goes like he was that clown who had that taken away from it, and he gains that. So yeah, I mean you see that change in him just in this one movie.
And even
I love the arc that you're saying, but angry to angry, it doesn't change.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about anger. It's a secondary emotion.
Oh,
Because it stems from something else, whether it be hurt, whether it be frustration.
what are you, my therapist? Take a walk.
But here's
not
the thing.
according to Inside Out. It's a primary emotion. First of all, it's in.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually you're wrong. Anger is on the board, buddy. Anxiety secondary.
I'm just talking to you, bro. Go ahead.
It's okay. But like in a lot of those scenes, you can feel like where that anger is coming from, whether it be the pain of the loss of his brother or just being completely so annoyed by Roger. There's other like emotions that you see through the anger, in my opinion.
Sure. Again, not going to convince you. And maybe you know what? I also can't. Clearly, Kirk said it on call. Clearly, this movie awakened a lot more in him than it. I can't take that back. I can't go back in time and erase that from his brain. He knows what that did. So you know what? Hats off to him. Give your credit. Take it.
I'm not going to lie. She gets less attractive the more I watch this movie.
Speaking of that, though, how bad does it suck that Zach's not here? Like, this is the perfect Zach movie. Childish and pervy at the same time. I mean, you can't get more
Zach would literally be like, well, because you don't like fun. You don't like fun. You hate fun. This is why you hate it. He would have attacked me harder. Okay. Anything else, you guys? Anything you want to say, perverts? Anything?
You hate joy.
Actually, yeah. There is one more thing that I love. I love the idea of disappearing, reappearing ink. That's like such a stupid thing that works so perfectly well in this script.
No. Stop where you stood it. You stood it really well. Stupid thing. Leave it. I like it. Stupid. All right. Star ratings. Bar.
So this was at 4.5 for me. It does slip down to a 4 for me, but I still love this movie.
Trash. John.
I mean, I don't know if I was bricked up at 9, but there is a huge nostalgia.
Maybe when you rewatch it at 13, buddy.
Yeah, maybe. 4.5 for me. It's just there's like I said, when you go through the fog of watching Warner Brothers like Looney Tunes syndicated, and then this comes into your life, it really is. You'll never understand, Cody. I've heard you hate fun.
I do.
Yeah, Cody can never accuse me of hating fun and joy ever again.
Sure can.
That card is
always
done.
Do it. Nope,
that card is back in the deck forever.
No, this is not fun. This is pervy cartoon fun. This is actually creepy. If you want my honest, this is creepy. This is a creepy movie. And you're okay with creepiness, weirdo. What's your rating?
I would not put it on top 100. But compared to some of the movies that we've talked about and are going to talk about, this is like Godfather meets Citizen Kane meets Seven Samurai. So it's a 4 stars for me.
2.5 stars.
Oh my god!
I went down. It was 3. It is. I found it miserable. It's 2.5 stars. I have no fun with this. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. I most likely won't ever watch it again, so 2.5 stars where it stays. It can't go any lower. All right, you three are going to decide the order for this week. So, get your boards out. I gotta edit this real quick. Who framed?
Read me off the movies again.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Princess Bride, Two
The
Towers,
Shining.
The Shining, and something like that.
Hold on 1 second. I lost my markers died here.
Get together, old man.
It's been working the whole show, and now it died on me. It's working fine as soon as I have to actually use it.
Yeah, right.
Okay, you're just got.
What am I missing? We just said it.
Some Like It Hot, Two Towers, Shining, Roger Rabbit,
And The Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride. All right. And then remind you to tease next week's episode. All right, everybody ready?
Yeah.
Did you get your pen figured out, Kirk?
No, you just got to read it real faded. Hopefully, we'll be able to see it. It's pretty bad, but we'll see.
We'll go to you first each time.
This is five. This is number 5 out of the 5 of those. Okay.
This is the fifth. So you'll write down what you want at number 5 of those movies. Two Towers.
Two Towers.
John.
No surprise, I put Something Like It Hot.
Okay, and Bar. Two Towers.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Wow.
It's still great.
Well, I get to.
But if we're doing a difference between my favorite films and what I think are technically the best films.
No, buddy, you ain't gonna make me mad. I have to break the tie. So, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is 5th. That was you just gave me a slow pitch down the middle. All right, what do you want in the 4th spot, everybody? How does Kirk feel when he's been betrayed?
I just hate that you gave Cody that satisfaction. I can't believe you did that.
Yeah, that was crazy. I can't believe you've done this. I can't believe. I was like, I watched this walk all the way to the end. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll go Kirk or
Two Towers.
Yeah, Two Towers. John.
And I'm still in the same spot. I shouldn't have erased my board. I'm still trying to get Something Like It Hot out of here.
Bar.
Two Towers.
Okay. It's only dropped for 1 spot on this thing. Interesting. All right. So number 3, Princess Bride, Something Like It Hot, or The Shining. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Kirk.
I don't even know why I'm bothering to show my board, but I'm saying Something Like It Hot.
Okay.
It's still there. I didn't erase.
Bar.
The Shining.
Oh, okay. All right, so now you're going to write down what you want for number 1. And then I will tease what is next month, and then we will go from there. Kirk, are you ready?
Yeah. The Shining.
Right, what's 1?
The Shining.
Shining. Bar. We'll mix it up.
I was about to say, because mine's The Princess Bride.
Princess Bride. John.
I got to go with The Shining of those 2 movies.
All right. So The Shining is number 1 of that week. Princess Bride will fall into 2. All right. Working well. All right. So now I will announce what is next next month's. I'm really excited for next month's. I don't know how. I think Kirk's semi excited. But at number 70, we have Brief Encounter from 1945. Never seen it, so interesting new watch. Number 69 is
Nice.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Shut up. I knew you were going to do it. You pervert. Number 68, The Silence of the Lambs. Number 67, Whiplash. And number 66 is Good Will Hunting. So that'll be next month on the list. I think it's a really strong month. So yeah, we'll talk about that next week. Thank you, John. Thank you, Bar. Thank you, Kirk, for being on. And everybody, be better at ranking movies.